Hi guys. In this series of Node.js from zero to hero, we're going to understand the concept in creating a sample website using EJS. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. To start with our tutorial demo, we're going to create the sample website. This is the example that I use in my HTML5 session. Using Node.js, we're going to perform or create a structure using EJS. So to understand what is EJS is an embedded or also known as embedded JavaScript templating. It is used or widely used in Node.js and help Node.js to create a HTML template with minimal code. So let's start. To start with, I'm going to create a new folder. Then I'm going to name this as EJS let's say website. And right click. For this demo, I'm going to use VS Code. You can use any other IDE, doesn't matter, as long you have Node.js. So that should work. Next, we need to initialize our package here. So to start, okay, so we need to initialize by typing npm init. For this demo, I'll be using this name, so nothing changed. Version, it's okay. Description, so I'm going to type EJS in Node.js. Entry point, so for now, I'm going to type this as server.js. Test command, it's okay. Give, not for now. Keywords, same. Author. Okay, license. Okay. So if you are satisfied with the setup, you can hit enter. There you go. So I'm going to clear these things up here. Okay. Now that we have created our package.json, the next thing we need to do is we need to install our packages. So what are the requirements for this one? For my tutorial, I'll be needing first, we need to start first with npm install or I. Doesn't matter, so it's okay. So I'll be needing EJS as a standard or main templating for this website. Then also I need Express. And this time I'm going to use Express EJS layouts. Okay, then going to save that in our package. So if this is all okay, so we're going to hit enter. So what it does is it will save this reference in our project. So let's wait. By the way, EJS is a template engine. So this is most widely used in Node.js development. So what it does is it helps create HTML template. There are a lot of template engines in Node, but for this demo, I'm just going to show you how does it works if you're using EJS. Okay, good. So it seems we're package is already installed. So let's check. If you check our package.json, under the dependencies here, these are the package that we installed. So as of this recording, our EJS is 3.1.6 with an Express of 4.17.1 and an Express EJS layouts of 2.5.0. Okay, now the first thing we need to create is our server.js. So this is our entry point. Now in here, we need to call the express. Need to type require express. Then we need to assign this in as app. So should I say our app? Then from our app, I'm going to assign our listening port. So I'm going to assign first our port here. So for this example, I'll be using 4000. And to do that, I need to call app.listen using the port. Okay. And from the port, I'm going to call the console.info. I'll be using this one here. This code is something like this one. So from this one, once you assign this type, this code here, this will assign a dynamic application. Let's continue. Start listening at port. Let's say $. So in here, I'm going to assign our port. Okay. Let's save. So let's try this one. To run this application, you need to simply type node and the name of the name of the file. So our file here is server.js, so I need to type server or .js, it doesn't matter. So node recognize this one. Going to remove that and enter. Okay, good. So it seems that our first entry is working. So we can cancel this now. Okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to assign the templating engine. So to do that, I'm going to call the express layouts. So require express EJS layouts. Okay. Now using these layouts, I'm going to use this one. To do that, I need to call use express layouts. So from our express layouts, I'm going to assign the layout folder. So to do that, I'm going to call or set our layout location. So here, I'm going to define this as layout. Then since we don't have the folder yet, I'm going to create a temporary location here. There should be layouts /layout. Okay. Now the next thing we need to create is we need to assign the view engine. So this will interpret our Node.js. So to do that, we need to assign the offset and call the view engine. For view engine, since we're going to use EJS, we need to type here EJS. Save. What it does is it will look or in Node.js, it will detect of what particular files that it's looking at. So the first one here, it's looking for a layout setup, which is we assign that in layouts folder. And the next one is we set the view engine, so which is these are some extension, or these are the type of files that Node.js should look at. So let's proceed. Let's continue. So for that to work, we should assign or create a folder that is called views. By default, Node.js recognizes this folder as your templating location. Okay. So let's start first with the layout. So for the layout, I call this in layouts. Okay, so this is the name of the folder. Going to create a folder here, layouts. Then inside layouts, I call this file name layout. To do that, need to create a new file. Then I'm going to call this as layout. So since we're using EJS, I'm going to put the extension of EJS. Okay, good. Since we don't have some templates here, we're going to create a temporary template in this section here. So to do that, so you should know first, or should I say, we need to create a basic HTML file. As I'm doing this, you need to ensure that you have a basic knowledge in HTML, because this is the basic foundation in creating our website. If this is your first time in, let's say, going to create a title, my website. This is my video. Okay. For those who are first time, or this is your first time in this section, and you don't have any knowledge in HTML, please check my video in HTML5, because most of the topics there is the same topics, or the concept applies in creating our layout. So let's start. Okay. Now that we have assigned our layout template, for now this will not work because our server here don't know how to call this file here. In Node.js, there is what you call routings. So to do that, you need to assign a route file or a route content that triggers this location here. So to do that, I'm going to assign or create a folder here. Then I'm going to name this as routes. Then inside routes, I'm going to create a new file, which is index.js. Okay. Now to call the application from inside in this section here, these routes, we should call by using this function here, the module exports. What it does is it will export all the content within this module. So for this example, I'm going to assign a function. Okay. Now inside the function here, I'm going to apply a get request. To do that, we need to get our app from our server. So since we don't have that app yet, let's assume that this app here will be triggered inside here in our module export. So for that to work, I need to call this app. I'm going to assign that in here in function app. This will be the entry point of our execution. So let's proceed. So using that app, I'm going to call a get request. And with the get request, I'm going to assign this URL here. And with the request and response function, let address. So now, since we're going to, means our target is to get this application from layout, we're going to render that so that whenever there's a trigger in our URL using this default URL here, it will display our layouts EJS. To do that, we need to type res.render. Then the location of our folder. Since our location is layouts, which is the folder name, and layout is the file name. Okay. Now that we already set our routing, the next thing we need to do is to call this routing in our server. So to do that, maybe somewhere here, I'm going to assign that in this section here. So say bar routes equals to require. Now for the location, so we should look it from our routes, and inside our routes, it's in our index. Okay, so maybe we need to complete this one here, index.js. That's it. Now, a while ago, when I create our routes, notice that I call this or assign this entry point here. So since we assign this in this manner, we should also call that in here. So since we call the index file, we need to assign these routes to trigger our application, and that is the app. So what it does is, upon start the system, this will applies to these routes. So with the use of with this variable here, this will triggers our engine to activate this app in here. Let's try. Save. Now let's try to run this one. Okay, good. So now we need to check our browser. To run that, you need to type the localhost, and our port is 4000. There you go. So which means that our routing is working. Now let's continue. Going back to our routing, Since we're dealing with layouts, the next thing we need to do is, of course, we need to build our template here. So to do that, before I'm going to split these things up here, I'm going to write the HTML structure from our layouts. Okay, so let's start. A while ago, I called this website as Wikicitypedia. So I'm going to recreate that. So in here, let's say this section here, I'm going to call this one, oops. So since we're dealing HTML5, I'm going to start with header. In my header, I'm going to assign h1. So this is Wikicitypedia. Then from our header, I'm going to assign a navigation. These are our menu. Navigation. So since this is the navigation menu, going to assign an anchor href. So for this one, I'm going to call London. And this is London. Paris. After London, we have Paris. Then the last one is Tokyo. Okay, good. Now the next one is this section here. I'm going to create our article. So under our article, I'm going to assign a section. For this demo, I'll be only needing, or I'm going to use only one section. In HTML5, you can create multiple articles with multiple sections. But for this example, I'll be using only one section. So let's continue. So here, going to assign h2. Then I will going to assign an ID, which is London. Okay. What I'm doing here is that I'm creating an ID with a header 2 so that in our navigation, this hashtag here will search for a ID tag within the body. Okay, so that explains that. So let's continue. We have our London. Next is Paris. And Tokyo. Okay, so let's split these things here. So each tag here, I assign a paragraph. So for our definition or information about these places, I'm just going to get some information from Wikipedia. So since I have those information, I'm just going to paste that in here. That's for London. This is for Paris. And this is for Tokyo. Save. Now that we are done with our body or the article, the next thing is the footer. I'm going to create our footer. So for our footer, let's copy my stuff from here. Okay, so that's our footer. So now we're done with our basic structure of our main layout. Let's preview this one. Save. Okay. So once saved, make sure you exit this node server here and run again. Okay, so let's check our browser. We hit refresh. There you go. This is our structure of our website. So since we're already started or done this part here, the next thing I need to do is I need to customize some settings here so that it will look nicer. So to do that, we're going to use CSS. Since we're building our layout, I want our CSS to be implemented in here first. And later, I'm going to split this stop here and put that in partials so that we can fully understand on how this website is created. So let's start with our head. So in here, I'm going to apply a style. I have already prepared the CSS for this one, so I don't need to retype everything again. I just want to paste it in here. Don't worry, at the end of this video, I will post this code so that you can see this CSS. Just to avoid so much time in this section here, you can review this as well in my HTML5 video series. So okay, so let's check. So I'm going to cancel here and run again. So in our website, I'm going to refresh this one. There you go. Okay. Now the only thing that things that lacks here is the image. So let's complete this section here. The only thing that I'm lacking here is the image. So to do that, I prepared already the image example. So for this one here, since we need that image to be available in our Node.js, we need first to assign a public folder which holds everything that requires in our system. To understand clearly, in Node.js, there's what you call security. So to allow a certain component which is not within your app, you need to create a folder location wherein everything is in there will be accessible. So to do that, we need to create a static folder. So what it does is that will be our main location for all our requirements for this HTML. So let's begin. Since we'll be using image, I'm going to activate one of the code here, and that is what you call static files. So this is the location of our static files. To do that, we need to call abuse. Since we're going to assign a folder for that particular files, going to assign this in Express to define this as static files. So what folder? So for our demo, I'll be calling that as public folder. Okay. Yeah, of course. So from our public folders, going to create that in here. Okay. So what does this Express statics use for? If you're creating a website, there's always what you call a static files. Static files, these are requirements like CSS, image, or any static location or any files that are needed on your execution. Instead of putting that in different location, in Node.js, it requires a static access to managing that files in one certain location. So that's the purpose of these Express static files here. Okay, let's continue. Since we already create our public folder, the next thing I need to do is I need to create a folder here and call this image. Now, since I'll be needing image to display in this section here, so I already prepared for that one. So I'm going to copy that image. This is from my HTML5 video series. So if you want to get some examples from there, you can simply check that files. I already provide that in the link description below. So this is our structure. So since I created this folder, so I'm going to paste that in here. Okay, good. Now from here, notice that it's already inside our public images. Now to call that, I'm going to assign that in here using image tag. So image source, let's say from here let's say London. Okay, usually when you create or call as a file within HTML, we really take all the path. But since we already assigned our public folder as our static files in here, we don't need to call this again because Node.js already knows where to look this file. So since we assign this in this manner, I can remove this now. Okay, so which means that our location is under public, then under public it's under images and with a file name. Okay, that's for London. Next, we want to assign the Paris. Last one is the Tokyo. Okay, let's check this one. To do that, we need to cancel this one here and run again. Then check our website. Let's refresh. There you go. Okay, so that's it. Now we have created our website here. The next thing we need to know is, need to do is, we need to define this or split this part. In Node.js or in any typical website, we don't really consolidate all those components in one layout. That is why in Node.js templating, there is what you call partials to split these parts so that it will be lessen our code preview. What it does, so first it will help the developer to know or identify the area, since these are all cleaned up in a proper way. That's the basic way of handling a website. So let's start. To understand what I mean is, we need to create a folder inside these views, and I'm going to call that as partials. So since Node.js already prepared this the template engine, the next thing we need to do is to split up our main website. So let me begin with the header here. So I'm going to remove this header here. So in here, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call this as header.ejs. So going back to our layout, I'm going to cut this header. And I'm going to put it in here. Okay, so let's continue. So our objective here is to split this file. Now we have called our header, so I already put that in header.ejs. The next thing I need to split is, or to remove, is this one here, the navigation. So again, I'm going to create a new file under partials. I'm going to name that as nav.ejs. Then I'm going to cut this section here and put it in here. Okay, that's good. The next one is this article. So again, so in here I'm going to create a new file again. Then I'm going to call this as article.ejs. So I'm going to cut this one here. Then I'm going to put that in article.ejs. Okay, next. The next thing we need to do is this footer here. So same goes. I'm going to create a new file. Then I'm going to call this as footer.ejs. And I'm going to cut this file here and put it in here. Save. Okay, good. Now that we have managed to clean our stuff here, Okay, maybe I need to include also this one here so that everything should be in place. So to do that, I need to create one more, which is the head.ejs. Okay, then I'm going to copy this head section. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Now that we have managed to clean up our layout, the next thing we need to do is we need to call this all layouts within our, so what we need to do next is we need to call this partial here in our layout. So to do that, there's a function here that specialized for EJS, which is called include. So to do that, we need to assign these patterns. So here, %-include, and then from this section here, we need to pull the location. Our location is partials. So from this section here, I'm going to call the head and %. Let's check again. So this person here, include partials head. Okay, so this is how you assign or call back again our section, because a while ago we consolidate that in one layout. To call that back again, we need to do it in this manner. So let's call all those things that we assigned a while ago. So from here we call the head. So next is I'm going to call the header. It's the header. Okay. Next, after the header, we're going to call the navigation. That's the nav. Okay. Then from the navigation, we have our article. So I'm going to call the article. Okay, good. So next to the article is our footer. Okay, good. Now let's try. Let's cancel this one here, and node server. Okay, so let's check. Going to refresh this URL here. There you go. Okay, let's check. So notice our website is still the same as before. So let me explain. A while ago, when we're creating our layout, all this stuff here, we put that in one pages. With the help of templating, we managed to split those things and carry it out or create that, or we reassign that using his folder here. So we assign all those parts here in our partials. So basically, as a developer, if you're creating a website, this really helps because it will lessen the space, and also it's really manageable. You can simply easily detect of which location that you're working at. So there's another thing that we need to discuss here is the public folder here. A while ago, when I create this one, I assign these images within this section here. So with the help of this static folder here, This is also helps in calling our static images, CSS. That also helps. So that's why if you're planning to create a massive website, you should know these things. There's also another thing that we need to fix. Since I already created the public folder, there is one section here that I want to clean up. This section here. For this one, since I don't want to do it, I don't want this to put it in here, I'm going to split this up and create or separate this up or putting that in a file. So to do that, since we already have our public folder, I'm going to create a new folder, and the name of the folder is CSS because this belongs in CSS. So let's say going to create this file name here. So let's say main.css. So then I'm going to cut this CSS style here and going to paste that in here. Save. Now, if you know basic HTML, or have you gone to training or learning HTML5, for that to call that in our page, we need to know this type of tags. So let's say for this one, we should call using link type, and the name of this is the CSS, and with a well here, so this is a style sheet. This time we're going to call that CSS file, since I assigned that in CSS folder with a file name of main.css, and we close our tab. That's it. Now, as you notice that we already cleaned some of the things that you could say that a little mess, but now our arrangement here is already in proper arrangement. So we already grouped that accordingly. So when you start or building your website, this will look cleaner and easy to manage all those parts in HTML. So let's run first if that works. I need to cancel this one here and run again. So let's refresh. There you go. So seems our app still good as it is, which means this is okay. So let's check first our source and see what's happening behind the scene. So to do that, you need to right click, then view page source. Okay, same goes. So this is how how our EJS work. Aside from EJS, there are a lot of templating in Node.js. That's the power of Node.js. So don't worry, we're going to discuss all of that type of templating. But for now, since we already set up the requirements for our EJS, okay, so that's it, guys. If you find this video interesting, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And see you guys on the next video series. Cheers!